Hello, hello. How's it going, everybody? Bumped my camera as I was setting stuff up here and it got all kittywampus. Kittywampus is a great word. um, Silence phone. We are in kind of a connection point to what we were looking at last week. My personal site is on Astro. That was like two major updates behind. We went through the work of updating that. In part because it was multiple versions behind, and I wanted to get some of that jink removed in that process. Because I want to start publishing to it more, but also like my the workflow that I had to publish like draft notes seems to have broken. So some of that is fixing that in the process. We got most of the upgrade done, but the way content collections are done has changed a little bit, and the way the environment variables has changed. The way the environment variables are used has changed a little bit. Enough that after fixing my integration with to like pull my draft notes, I think pulling the recipes worked, which is also a connection to Cookling, past handful of streams. Recipes and draft articles and notes, I guess. Those are all like pieces that I want to pull in that are sort of like external to this repo. And we got most of the like Astro things upgraded, and then I got to that point, and the workflow and the like API that I was using wasn't working anymore, which is part of what necessitated the upgrade. I fixed that, but then the environment variables are coming in differently and not a convenient way to how I had it before. So I was kind of shifting stuff around. I'm like, you know what, let's try these new content collections. So we're close. I've got a PR open. I need to figure out some last bits on the content collection stuff, I think, and how that relates to my API. Because like where you take the content and then render it into Markdown, I don't want to change that too much. But one of the neat things I think about Astro is that I can do blog posts that are like purely Markdown, and that's probably what my notes are going to be. Anything like coming out of Obsidian as in like a draft mode or draft status or like little notes, those are going to be like purely Markdown. So it's probably fine if I in my content collection pipeline kind of just render directly to Markdown. Some of my previous notes though used features of MDX, which is a format that takes Markdown and handles like JSX within it. So you can do some, I guess, in some ways, like React type things. And I say React, like it isn't inherently React, but like React, like in part because JS sort of originated in React land. I've got a couple like that, and I want those probably to keep working, but I also could just migrate those. So I've got a little bit of decisions to make and a little bit of like getting that last bit figured out, and then we'll have an update there. But that kind of rolls into I've been hearing folks struggling with parts of the docs or looking for more information that the docs isn't helping them with. And there's a piece of hair right on something that was bothering me. There is like we've gone through a handful of things on stream. We're sort of in this place where folks are working on stuff. Most of that isn't entirely visible, and it's not all necessary. Like the attention given that the docs hasn't been, it hasn't felt great, at least from an external point of view. And I'm thinking what we can kind of do on stream is we don't have any like big coming up topics. Like we're not like deep into the next major version or anything like that, where it's sort of just, it's not, I don't want to qualify it as maintenance mode. Um, but like folks are working on stuff and it's all stuff that will take time, and it's all stuff that doesn't necessarily need to land in a major or require like major reworks, which is good. But also majors kind of tend to be more visible. All of that being said, I think we can kind of take care of a couple pieces of work. I don't really want to say like kill two birds, but we can take care of a couple different efforts or streams of work in the uh, in the stream here. So the idea, I think, is we do like a docs day, Tauri docs day, maybe like end of the month every month or something like that. At least for the next couple months is sort of what's sitting in the back of my mind. So the idea here is that we do something related to the docs, or something that's going to be like visible on the site, and that's sort of the thing that we do for the next few months. So it might take the form of upgrading some bits, or dealing with maintenance kind of stuff. It might take the form of doing reviews. It might take the form of writing more content, blog post, or actual guides or anything within there. And I think in some ways too, that'll give us like little topics to spin off on, because there's pieces of Tauri that it seems like folks are struggling with as they get into it. In specifically V2 is what I've got in my mind. And we can like play around with, do some examples, do some content on the stream, and that I think will give us topics and things to hold our interest. But then also it potentially benefits those streams of work too, because having little examples, or writing up little pieces of code to show how to do a thing, is a lot of the effort in communicating in docs. So if we can do that in a, at least to me, more fun way, we can potentially work through about a handful of streams of work in like one fell swoop. So that's the idea here. I know there is an upgrade, or there's in process a PR to upgrade Astro and Starlight in the Tauri docs. We might take a peek at that. I think Vitor was working on that. I don't know where they are in that process. So we'll kind of check in and see where that is going. I reached out too late to get an idea of that. But if it seems like they're in a place where they might be stuck and it might be helpful, we might dig into there a little bit to see if we can kind of get them unstuck and get the last bit of that move forward. And then we'll kind of check in to where like the rest of the docs are at. So that's sort of the idea, at least for today. So I suppose we can, and I guess this all comes over to, we'll flip over to the display here because I want to write these things down. So we're gonna check out the Tauri docs repo, and there's also a project that I think is public visible. We're gonna open up that, and then we're gonna look at Vitor's PR. That's probably where we'll go with, and so sort of like the connection to what we were working on last week. Tauri docs is built on top of Astro. For V2, where it's on Astro, which is the same framework, static site generator. It's sort of static site generator plus at this point, but in both cases we're using the static site generator portion of it, both my site and Tauri docs. But the Tauri docs also is using an integration called Starlight, which is Astro's plugin integration, whatever you want to call it, to make docs easier, I guess. It's sort of like the need for docs is kind of, there's a lot of similarities between different libraries and their needs for docs. So they basically wrote like an integration that handles a lot of that, like that overlap. We pulled it in when it was in its earlier stages, so it's come a little ways. So I think that's probably part of the issues that we're running into in this Astro upgrade is specifically our integration with Starlight and like what we were doing as far as like custom stuff relative to what we can potentially do. Okay, so I was just double checking messages here. I need to get my hockey ready here, right? What is it now? I think it's this. That's another thing I need to do is the, right? Oh, that's what it is. Okay. I think I need to change that hockey. It is Alt space, which is a little awkward to press on this keyboard. Actually, let's see, left Alt. I can do this. I've got the like home row keys here. I can give that a shot. A little bit of background, and the reason I put this up here. I started using a Voyager, which is a split keyboard. What you see, those keys are the keys that I am currently pressing. I put it up there because it's kind of interesting, but also I don't. The only time I use it on my Windows box is on stream. Otherwise, I'm mostly using it on my Mac. So some of the like macros and like little, it requires 3 keys to do this action type thing. I haven't committed those to memory or like defined them even. Some of them are just not working or broken because the key combinations are just impossible to press at this point. So I put it up there just in case, and you can watch me struggle when it comes to that. Okay, so let's look at the project. Let's see if we can look at the project here. I think we can. If we go to Tauri apps, Tauri, I think we can. So I'm in this browser. I'm not actually signed in. There's a, and actually I should write that down as a to-do item here. There's a, like, there's a couple repos that potentially don't want to make too public or share too publicly on stream. Both like within work context, but also personal, also Tauri context. It would be nice to have like a CSS plugin or something to hide like the repos that I own. Okay, I just wrote that down. Because then maybe I could sign in and it would work a little bit better. Because some of the functionality is like, it mostly works fine. And mostly what we're looking at on stream is public anyways. Like that's, where we're exploring that piece of it. But the search doesn't work, which is kind of an inconvenient, but that is what it is. All right. So we've got if we look at the Tauri org, we have a bunch of projects. And some of them are used more than others. Some of them are like the roadmap is, I don't know that anybody's, can we look at the insights? That's not what I want. No. this is like replacing the whole thing. I want to look at the. They don't have like a activity thing. Is that they add an activity thing? That might be a signed in feature only. So like we still have things for 1.5 and 1.6, which we could potentially get rid of now. So like if we look at this list of, okay, back. Oh, here. If we look at this roadmap updated 5 hours ago, yes, technically, but I don't think like some of it is just happening as issues are dealt with. It gets updated in the project board, like that sort of situation. What I specifically want to look at is the documentation. I'm not sure. I think at this point, a lot of the effort is being done by Vitor. Simon was pretty deeply involved, but had some real life things come up, and they've stepped back a little bit. I think at this point, a lot of the work is happening with Vitor or a couple of the other, like Fabian. Fabian is sort of just like generally involved in everything, and does a lot of the interfacing with folks in that regard. So we appreciate Fabian's work, but I'm honestly not sure how much attention this is specifically given. But this is probably something that if it's not being given attention, at the very least, we can on stream start to give it more attention, because I think having this kind of view is potentially helpful, because it's a combination of like issues, but then also like the status of like tracking issues and what's useful for people to look at or helpful to get involved with. But also tracking that work and like keeping it moving forward. So like we've got a lot of this stuff in the backlog. I have a suspicion that folks could potentially be interested in helping out writing or dealing with or figuring out what the issue is. Just like if anything, even just issues and getting reproductions of issues is like a big, like that's a lot of effort, and that's a great place to help. If you can recreate the thing, recreate the issue, recreate the bug, or make a reproduction of that situation, that can push the status of an issue or an example or something forward quite a bit. So I don't. Like the version, I guess, okay, so these are milestones. So some of this is that like I haven't been directly involved in maintaining these, and I don't know if the status of what other folks are getting into here. I mean, it looks like we've got a bunch of stuff listed as in review. And I think that is that is a relatively old one. Speaking of Fabian, thanks. So I think getting folks involved and making it clear where we can use help, especially in the docs, is going to be a way to get folks interested in helping out. So if anything, what we can potentially do on stream is hopefully grease those wheels, get that process going a little bit better. What does ready mean? Yeah, and like some of these go way back. And like it looks like it's mostly been about Simon handling this. So we'll probably check in with I'll speak more directly with Vitor and Fabian, I guess, who seems to be doing most of the high level issues here. Yeah, let's go. I guess let's go directly to the docs now. Because I think hey, look at that. Oh, hey. Well, it could very well be purely coincidental, but I think I actually asked Vitor like at the same time that issue was created. So I don't know if they did that because I asked. I don't know. That's kind of hilarious though. Okay. So I guess that kind of gives us the green light. Vitor is potentially interested in help here, it looks like. We've and like I think there's potentially a bunch of this type of work that we can do where we can make the usability slightly better. I think that's going to be hard to do though. That like getting a bunch of upgrades in place, I think will end up helping us out here, because there's a lot of these like little things where there's little bugs or something issue in the generator. So getting an upgrade in, I think, is going to end up being beneficial as a good way to sort of like kick things off. And I think there's a little bit of a design refresh too, and that comes from that. So like having a little bit of a design refresh on the main Tauri site, I think is going to be net positive as well. So let's take a look at that. We can call this done. Let's go ahead and take a look at what Vitor is doing here. And we've got a lot of docs PRs open too. Some of it is renovate stuff, which makes sense. Some of it is internationalization type stuff, which that is a little bit more nuanced, because it's, if you have somebody writing docs or updating docs or doing docs in a language that you don't speak, it's pretty hard to review that. I mean, you could do the reverse and do like a Google Translate or something like that, but so you almost need something like 2 to 3 people minimum to work on a single language, which makes things hard because the need for the docs team explodes really quickly. I think it is important in doing what we can to support multiple languages, and we have listed multiple languages. But it's not an easy thing to handle. So if anybody's interested and knows other languages or wants to help specifically with other languages, that actually would be a really big help. And it's purely about the translation. So you don't even need to be like deeply involved with or understand Tauri. It's just being able to go from English to another language. Okay, so Vitor's PR is here. They have changed a handful of files. They were doing it as a separate PR. They kind of mentioned that there was a renovate PR, but I honestly agree. Like, this doesn't feel like renovate PR type of work. We've got a bunch of symlinks going on here. Or not, excuse me, not symlinks, get submodules. We've changed how we've handled that a couple times now. I don't know. Pulling in data from a different repository is never clean. is kind of what it feels like. What can you do? So tweaked a little bit of formatting. These are our redirect routes. Yeah, because some of our routing changed slightly. Intro went to philosophy, and honestly, we could potentially look at. I'm gonna actually write this down. Look at Tauri analytics. I'm writing it down on my personal to-do list here. Look at Tauri analytics, and look for 404 or something like that. That'll be enough to remind me. So we have a lot of redirects, and I don't know that we need all these anymore. Like we might still have a couple things pointing to little pieces like this. I don't know that we need it to live here. Something to think about. Astro upgrade. I'm pretty sure Astro's still on 5, I believe, right? I know Veet just upgraded, and Astro builds on top of Veet pretty deeply. I guess we can look at their GitHub. And Veet 7, I believe, just came out. Like literally just came out. Veet.js. Really? Do they not have? Yeah, I mean, like, they don't have a big post on the site though. Interesting. I would have expected that they led with that. So they went through a few betas here. I have a feeling that this is probably gonna end up getting a mini announcement post, but like functionally, I don't think they're doing too much insofar as like they're doing a major version in the way a major version was originally intended. There's breaking changes that could potentially affect people. A major version signifies that. Like that's the sort of the original intent. Less so a marketing situation and more of a, hey, next time you upgrade, you might want to double check the breaking changes. And I think most of it is honestly around support of Node.js. I think they dropped support for Node 18. So there might actually be a big Astro update coming down. But the big thing I think is if we look at, so like there is an Astro major version, which isn't a huge deal. I think honestly the bigger deal is we were on 29. I thought we were on an even earlier version than that. Come on, scroll up. Into V2. We look at the package JSON in V2 branch. Starlight 29. Okay. Is there not an what are they on now? We want to look at Astro. We want to go to their site. I am going to simply search for it. They had a nice integrations page. Actually, do they still have a link on the? Not really. They had a nice integrations page on the homepage there, or a link to it. Honestly, I'm not big on this search. I haven't had good luck with this search as we've been using it. Like, I want to go to the integration, but these are all like guides that just happen to mention it. Yeah, like here's probably where I would end up looking. Yeah, so like on my personal side, I've got MDX in play here. And React, I guess, is probably most of what I'm working with. What is actually? Let's open up this. What is this specifically doing? Nullify edge functions. So like it's kind of become a it started out as like a static site generator, which all of these seem to do. And that's sort of like built up into more from there. Like it works this way through edge functions and basically like sort of route handling. And then it starts to get deeper and deeper into like, hey, you can actually run a server and do like SSR. And I mean, the fact that they have, I believe it's different levels of support, but in theory, support front end frameworks in these different setups is kind of neat. But honestly, like, I don't think I have a reason to use edge functions in most cases for where I'm using Astro. Yeah. Okay. So if we do redirects in Astro, we do need the Nullify adapter, which is actually I don't remember if we have the Netlify plugin. We might actually want to, because that was the other piece in maintaining this list of redirects. We had to have it in multiple places potentially too, because there's like the front end redirects, but then there's also the like at like there's sort of the client side is loaded sort of routing that you want to think about, but then there's also the server side. You visit a URL, it needs to redirect you at the server level. If we can just pull in the Netlify integration, that might actually help us out a little bit with that. I'm gonna write that down though. For and maybe use Netlify plugin. Okay. So there was Lorenzo was working on some Starlight utils. I'm curious if we still need those. Actually, that's the next thing we need to go back and look at. We need to find the actual link for Starlight. Like, where is it now? Reference is, I mean, that doesn't really make sense. It's not really a third-party service. Integrations directory. This is what I want. What, like, how do you get to here? There's no resources, integrations. Oh, okay. Well, good to know, I guess. This is actually what I was looking for this whole time, but it was just moved. Starlight. Starlight is on. So you can see some similarities here to the Tauri site. And I mean, honestly, like what they're doing here feels pretty good to me. You can see there are a bunch of similarities. We do have this switcher up at the top, which I'm not honestly dead set on personally. And I think that is most of the reason for like these utils packages. But the problem is now we're doing a special thing. We need to keep those updated separately. And that kind of comes back to I appreciate that they actually have this. Okay, so they are on 34, so it's actually not too big of an upgrade. It shouldn't be nearly as bad as I was thinking, but I had in my mind that we were on like um, 15. Maybe I was thinking of the Starlight blog. Okay. Okay. So there's some update here, but potentially it's not nearly as much of a lift as I expected it to be, which is good. Bunch of little little changes here. We have some collection updates, which we were getting involved with on my personal site, and I don't see anything else too deeply go up. Like to anything else that's like too deep of a change. Okay, so check if Starlight PNMP patch is working fine. That's the other thing. In part, we were and this I think is blame. Okay, a bunch of renovate. History. Yeah. Okay. Here. Yeah. So this is something that we've been dealing with, and I would say I think I might have actually made the first patch to that because we were running into issues with how it's auto generating and sorting blog posts. And I think there is still potentially an issue there that we haven't quite solved. So like that is probably going to be the biggest painful piece of this is maybe deal with that patch. Hopefully they've like fixed the root issue. Um, fix some more. Fix. Okay, let's grab their PR. I think from a strategic point of view, and this is like good general advice. Anytime you're working with code that you don't directly own, um, there's ways you can go about supporting or getting involved with or pushing code up that will be more likely to be merged. In this specific case of like working with other folks in progress work, um, one of the things that you could do is rather than like opening up a PR as like a separate thing to the main branch in sort of like a competitive fashion, now you basically ended up having two potential issues. If you can do little fixes or little tweaks, you can open up a PR against their PR. And if we can like fix little pieces or maybe deal with a single bullet point or something like that, that's a separate PR that we can open up against their branch. And only they need to actually care about the review. I mean, depending on their branch protections and stuff, there might like other folks might need to be involved. But in theory, the only person that actually needs to approve it is the person working on the PR, because they're sort of like taking on that work then. So I think that's going to be our strategy here is maybe we can fix a bunch of these, but at least we're going to pull down and grab their branch and see if we can fix a couple little one of these and open up a PR against their branch. And that's, I think, what we're going to do as far as trying to help push this forward. Let's make this a little bit bigger here. And we do have the Tauri docs on this computer. Oh, not that. CD Tauri doc. Wow. Okay. I definitely have not pulled the latest on a long time, so this is going to take a minute. And pull. Git checkout, and we're going to check out his branch. There we go. So I should have PNMP on this computer because we've used it previously. I think that is an okay version to use. I don't know if we actually have lock valve versions 9. I don't remember if there's a good way to see what version is required. I know PNMP tends to be a little bit less problematic, I guess, in that respect, but we might want to just upgrade this real quick. Volta list. Whoop, Volta list. So we're on node 20. Okay, so we do have Volta. And actually, do we have any node on the engines? Okay, PNMP 10. Okay, great. I thought there was a place where we added in here that I remembered seeing. It doesn't specifically say a version of node though. We can potentially look at the workflows. Okay, we don't have. I think we're gonna keep node 20. We'll bump our version of node 20. Volta install. There is a slightly newer version, I think. Yeah, okay, not that big of a deal, but I'm gonna stay on 20 because I think that's what Netlify is using. So we'll say PNMP, and that should give us the latest PNMP through Volta. The reason I use Volta is because it handles both the version of Node, but also the package managers potentially, and the version of the package managers. And you can actually pin it and put it in the same way that they've got this. You can put a Volta config in here too, and that'll automatically pick it up. There's a bunch of other options that seem to be doing similar things and potentially seeing more progress than Volta, but the problem is none of them actually do the package manager too. Like me and Mise in place. Mise, is that what it is? There is, yeah, Mise en place. I'm sure I'm not quite pronouncing that correctly, but this seems like a cool project, and it seems like it works with a bunch of different tools, like outside of just JavaScript ecosystem. But the problem is that it doesn't do it does Node, which is helpful. But I also wanted to do the package manager because all of these other ones, like you look at Rust, Rust has got, like, Cargo is the package manager. That's what you use. You use Rust and Cargo, and it looks like they respect Rust up. So like that's the ecosystem for like those pieces, and that's not how Node is. There's it's more fractured, and I bounce between projects enough that having the ability to switch between the package managers ends up being really useful. Okay, so we'll do a PNMP install here, and let's see if we can get this running, or at least deal with a couple of the things that they are running into here. I think this big thing is the Starlight PNMP patch. We are going to Yeah, that's fine. Go ahead, reinstall. Fix TOC, fix overrides, Astro props usage. I am curious if it, the like if we go back, if we go to the Tauri docs site, we've got this. So there's guides, references, blogs, blog. I got a single blog. And like I think part of the intent of doing this was just that like we've got a lot of content here. And they like this layout for Starlight is convenient because like you open everything up and it doesn't, at least on my screen, it doesn't scroll, which is helpful. Like if we look at Tauri, no, not Tauri, Astro.js, they have, and we look at their documentation site, they've got this, like they've got this switcher. I'm honestly not a huge fan of this either because it takes up a lot of that like vertical real estate, which is important, I guess. I don't know a better way to do it. So we might potentially need to look at what Astrodox is doing and how they're handling this, because I think that's potentially going to be part of the thing that we run into. But I guess the first thing, let's double, is this all done? Unused patch. Okay. Yeah, I think the first thing we're going to want to look at is the patch. I'm reasonably familiar with the context around why we had the patch. So where is here? And we have been bumping the version. So if we open up the code, let's open up the code first, and then let's look at what that patch is doing. Oh, I've got a bunch of like quasi to-dos in here. We might want to come back to some of those. Okay. What is Lunario? Translation thing, I guess. Seems kind of neat. All right. These are gonna get annoying though. I really. Well, maybe we could just ignore them. Maybe it'll be fine. Let's look at this patch. The patch is here. What does this say? Oh, we've got like a. This is how we've. Did we generate this? Did somebody make this? Yeah, Vitor. Yeah, so like just maintaining this has become a thing. Because like all we're doing is just reordering how the blog is rendered. I wonder if all right, so we've got a couple dependencies in here. We have the markdown remark. I wonder if we even need that anymore. But we've got Starlight. That appears to be almost on the newest version. We have the utils. Oh, it looks like Lorenzo's been putting some effort into it. Multi sidebar. Okay. So I guess we have a it still seems to work. I'm actually curious now, what is Astro doing? Can we look at Astro? Astro, what was it? Astro JS? I probably got that wrong. And with Astro. And docs. If we look at their layout file, nav grid cards. Okay. So they are using Lunaria as well. Starlight, sitemap, check. So they have their own like custom little bit there that they're doing. Okay. It seems like we could probably keep rolling with this the switcher thing. It might just be the ordering on that blog. So if we can deal with or fix that in a different way, we might be set. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna upgrade these, and then I want to look at the Starlight blog. It opened in a different browser. Close. Okay. Recent posts, tags. I mean, I think we've been using this for some time, and it seems fine. And Lorenzo, so context. Lorenzo was putting a lot of effort into the docs for quite a while, and they sort of moved on from being more directly involved, and are they actually working with Astro now? That's kind of neat. Lorenzo's a good person, though. I appreciate all the effort they put in. I'm not saying it's a bad thing that they've shifted focus or anything. Neat. So they are. It looks like they are potentially involved with Astro more directly. Okay, so not getting started guide demo. Getting started guide. Okay. The thing that we were running into is we want like having these things is nice, but just the like the ordering on the sidebar was awkward. That was the thing that we were trying to deal with and fix. Here, let's look at Biome. Biome, I assume, has got a fair number of posts here. Featured posts, recent posts. So these are rendered in like the correct order, right? I don't know that we care about a featured posts. I don't think we read enough for featured posts to be useful, but like some of these other sections might be kind of neat. So I think we look at deleting our patch and see if we can sort of just roll with what they're doing. Because in part we were trying to do some custom navigation there. I think because the Starlight blog thing just didn't have great support for it. So what I'm going to do, I am going to straight up just delete this. We are going to see if we can migrate that. Oh, nice. It literally has like all of everything pulled in as a Git. I think they ended up doing the Git submodules because just generating all these docs from all these different places it's involved. We were doing triggers before and that worked okay because we were doing like multiple versions of stuff. I don't know. None of it is easy. And the problem is that we were then sort of like waiting on publishes to get updated docs, which also wasn't a great situation. Okay, schemas. All right, here's a bunch of our docs. I don't remember what the underline means. I think the underline has some significance, but I don't recall, honestly. Okay, and it looks like we don't have the Astro plugin turned on, so let's go ahead and do that. I need to like clean up my plugins. I've got like random stuff I think I've accidentally installed at some point. The to-do list, I tell you, it continues to grow. All right, so let's just do a reload of the window because I'm guessing some of this stuff will now better resolve with Astro. Interesting. It couldn't find it. Okay, well, I don't have that patch anymore, so we're going to do another PNMP install. Yep. Okay. Oh, I've definitely worked with PNMP less and the like less often. So some of the things it does is slightly different than what I'm used to. And in part, they have built-in patches, which is nice, honestly. I used to use patch package, and I still do in some projects, but it's not seeing a whole ton of attention anymore. There we go. Now it looked like it installed better. So like just having it built in is really nice, but their semantics are slightly different than what I'm used to. Okay, hopefully that once everything loads, okay, Astro is coming in. All right, I think we're good. Oh, maybe not. Why do we have JS Dom in here? That feels like something that we don't really need, but we will not worry about that right now because I want to try to fix the sidebar. Where do we have the sidebar? Style, schemas, pages. Oh, just dumping out full text. I mean, I guess. Content, index. Where'd our sidebar go? Stub. Okay, so if we look at the config, we've got a bunch of authors, site v2, all our integrations. And I've got those all wired up. We have Starlight blog. Navigation none. I think some of this too is the interaction with the like nav thing that we had before. It could potentially become an issue. Yeah, because we were like manually doing the sidebar here, and that I think is in part because of how Starlight handles stuff. Here's Astro D2 service worker. Okay, markdown redirects, and all of this is within Starlight. So there's like a Starlight like sub config that we're sort of like working with here, and it's got this sidebar of which we have these top level sections. And now I'm recalling it more. The like part of the issue we were having was like the interaction between our nested sidebar and this Starlight blog. So we're potentially going to continue to run in that type of issue. Plugins, competitive. So I don't think like all of this is like actual pages. Overrides. Starlight TOC. I do remember there was an issue of with the TOC, and I don't recall. I think it just said fix or like it was an issue. And but I don't know offhand where the table of contents ends up showing up. So we have the header, footer, page frame. Page frame's got a bunch of CSS. Okay. And then the Starlight sidebar component, and that comes from Lorenzo's Starlight. So we have a sidebar, and the sidebar is mostly coming from this. So part of what we were running into was that if we had the multi sidebar, we could do this. So it's saying remove multi sidebar and use utils, which is what we have. And if no multi sidebar key is set, then the default Starlight sidebar will be used. So part of what we were doing with the sidebar and the config there was that some of it was we wanted control, some of it was we didn't have a choice. So in the blog section, if we focus just on that, we were doing the auto generate. So that patch was like fixing the auto generate. Because this like combination plugins that we were using just wasn't working. So if we do pnmp, actually what's our, I don't remember what our run script is here. Whoop, not that bat, package JSON. Windows, or at least this shell doesn't have a cat, so I have bat installed. We have I don't really care about the submodules. I guess we just do dev. pnmp run, run dev. And we'll see what we're working with. I have a suspicion though that our really there's a new version of, oh, I bet you it's like a minor bump or something. It's probably not too big of a deal. Because Starlight is on nearly the latest. Our utils are on the latest. Astro. Yeah, there's a couple new versions, but like not that big of a deal. And not too worried about it. Actually, I'm gonna keep this open because Doc's Playground. Where's their blog? Blog. Yeah, see, I kind of like the links up here, honestly. And if we look at like our Tauri site, we've got the search there. I mean, honestly, if this is gonna like keep breaking and keep being a pain to maintain, I'd almost be tempted just to say, let's stick with these. If we have it up here, is it really worth trying to maintain this like separate sidebar thing over there? As much as I want to support Lorenzo, that is a kind of a big pain point in maintaining this. All right, so let's go here. And let's see if we have anything actually load. Yeah. Does the file exist? Table compatibility. We might actually need to run some of these setup scripts. Let's go ahead and try that. If we do, I guess dev setup, pnmp, nope, pnmp run dev setup. And we've got a couple builds. So there's build compatibility table. I'm assuming that plugins workspace compatibility table. It's doing some installs for deeper packages. Format check. So compatibility table. I don't know where compatibility table shows up. I don't know if that's a thing that comes in with one of those helper scripts. Let's just try running it again and we'll see. I'm guessing that is not an issue, and it's just a my setup issue. Oh, there we go. Yep. Okay, cannot destructure property slug. Starlight route. Yeah. Okay. So the Starlight route stuff is going to be an issue. If we go, let's look at, like the blog stuff. I think is going to be potentially fine. And actually, maybe we can visit that if we go to /blog. So on here, if we go to /blog, will that even load? Sure. Okay. And this is in the directory list. List directory. Yeah, like we're doing so much here just to get these links in the right order. Okay, sidebar navigation. What's the default now? It's going to automatically generate a sidebar based on the file system. we can group through the Starlight sidebar property. And this would be, so we're grouping slugs in this case. So constellations Andromeda and Orion. Wait, okay. And then that makes like the top level groups. Okay, so we can do some grouping. Can we order them? Customizing auto-generated links in front matter. Okay. I mean, like, honestly, this is probably going to be fine enough to order these groups for us. If we look at this, we want to think about how these are ordered. So if this just happens automatically, that's probably fine. The So then it's sort of this like blog section. And if we're going to use that other plugin, it seems to handle a bunch of that for us. So like keeping all of that in mind, what would we be able to even, like if we straight up just go no sidebar config, we can have we'll do this. So we have a backup and authors, like just that. And then what if we just straight up go no utils? Like what is this going to end up looking like? Can we even like get anything to render? Okay, and that's in the sidebar.astro.ts. And that, like that's the other thing. So we have this custom sidebar, I think, because we're dealing with, I just don't, I can understand the intent and why we did it in the first place. I just don't think we have I don't think we can support the time and effort to continue to keep this going. Where is can I find imported from there? Oh, so it's importing. Oh yeah, because we are rendering that special sidebar component, right? um, footer, header, page frame, because we're rendering this sidebar component, which comes from there. And so if we look at Starlight pages and we say Starlight page, there's a Starlight page component, and then they have the sidebar. There's just a sidebar thing built into it. This would override the default sidebar. So there is this like top level Starlight page. And like that's the other thing. We're not even using that either. So we've just got enough hacked together here that I think it's causing us some pain. So what if we swap out the whole page component? What, like, how much chaos is this going to be? Mobile menu toggle. If we do, I don't know what the let's see, Starlight page. Do we have a reference configuration using components? So this will be like internal smaller components, customizing. Page layout. It uses a layout with a global navigation sidebar. You can do it without, and that I think all of that is sort of dependent on the fact that we're doing this root piece with to use Starlight layout in custom pages, wrap your page content with this. So what is this? If we do this, and instead of returning this, nav div slot. So I think we still potentially need our slot here. Astro locals. Yeah, because then there's also the localization. So we still need to like keep some of this in mind. Sidebar. Okay, so if we do one of these and we do some of this, what are we looking at? Does anything even render? Okay. And this is coming from that list directory. So where does this list directory come into play? If we look for we're doing like a whole bunch of effort here. Card grid. What is that having a problem? Cannot destructure property slug of Starlight's route. Okay. So this is the like directory page, I believe. Slug is deprecated. Okay. So what is it instead? What do we use now? Entry? Directory? Route ID? Oh, we're like just straight up doing, okay. What I'm gonna actually do is I'm gonna literally just do this. And say a let slug is this. We're going to comment that out. Let's just see if we can get something rendering. Okay. Command tabs. Oof. All right. There is like I see what you're seeing, Vitor. If you end up watching this, yes, fix. I understand that feeling now. Because like we can't even get the can we even get the homepage to render at this point? We might not even get the homepage to render. Components, command tabs. Okay, there is a code. Oh, wow, it just straight up crashed. Lovely. Okay. So I don't even have the error anymore. Where do we use this? All right. If we take a tiny step back, we've got a bunch of docs pages. We have a config. Problem is we have lots of errors. Understanding where the errors are coming from, and like I think if we do this, like switch purely just to the like if we do the remove the multi switcher, I just purely from like a maintenance standpoint, because this is a lot. I know every time we've touched this to update it, it's been a whole issue. And if we eliminate those as potential issues, we have a couple of component overrides. If we remove the component overrides, can we just get like a thing to render? We can potentially start to walk pieces back. Because the problem is I think we've got the components and we're pulling in all of these pieces, and that's not a like improper thing to do, but the problem is it's impossible to get anything to render when you have 1,000 things to deal with all at the same time. So let's remove all our custom stuff. We should be able to get down to, yes, like just this is like we haven't customized stuff at all. And you can see we're getting a whole bunch of like blog is showing up in the same area, and like that is an issue that we need to deal with. But it renders, which is important. So I think part of this is like we've got this blog section. Okay. So our slash blog is actually doing now what we want it to do. If we fix the top nav, we might actually be in a little bit better place. So if we actually pull in just the header, what does that look like? Because I think we might need to fix a couple things with the header, but like this is fine. Like I'm okay with this as a top nav. So we've got a blog. We've got we'll have to deal with the other ones, but like now blog is doing what we want it to do. And also Lucas, you're writing a lot here. Everybody else needs to write more, myself included. So like getting this list bigger would be kind of neat. And these are actually in order, and they're recent posts. I'm okay not showing like the date on the top level or anything. Like this all feels fine. And like the linking and all the links and everything work here. So like but also keep in mind sometimes dev mode, at least in our setup, sometimes the dev mode has been slightly different than the routing when we actually land in a deploy. But like this works. So now, if we go to, I think footer will probably be fine, and I suspect theme select will probably be fine. So if we can get those pieces working in something rendering, we can come back to the other bits. Okay, I mean, it hasn't crashed yet. That's good. I don't know what was our page frame? Page frame is, I mean, honestly, what if we just didn't use the page frame? So part of this was we do need the switcher here. And here I'm actually going to, I have got this set to 250%. I'm going to, oh, no, cancel. I want to set them to the same zoom level. So we're sort of like looking at apples to apples here. If we put these next to each other and close a couple of these. All right. I don't see much as far as like CSS. So like if we go to the overview, here, let's go to the architecture page for both. Tauri architecture. I mean, this has got this, which is kind of nice. We could potentially look at that. I mean, but honestly, like how many have, I don't think that's that big of a deal. Like if we can potentially just limit the upgrade to like dealing with this stuff, if we get rid of the multi-level dealio up here and we have a references, a blog, a releases, and a guides as top level like sections, yeah, so like right now we've got a reference. So if we group these a little bit differently, that might end up just dealing with a lot of the things that we've been running into in Tauri RSS feeds. Oh, what did I do? I like broke it. This is on the main Tauri site. Weird. I did something to break it. That's interesting. So like releases is a top level thing here, but it's a subsection under references here. I mean, honestly, I think releases can have its own page, and then we just do guides, references, blog, releases, and get rid of the multi sidebar thing. I think that's going to allow us to actually move forward with this. It's just too hard to maintain all of it. I mean, like we look at what Vitor started doing this in March, maybe earlier. Yeah, like the scope of this is it's just a lot. I mean, we could potentially come back to it at some point, but I think scoping this upgrade to tweaking that or removing that and shifting some of the stuff out is probably going to be the best way to go. So I guess that being said, if we are not using the page frame, what is the table of contents? TOC, table of contents. All right. Let us look at the overriding components. I'm not sure where or what. Like, how do you determine what is a component and where it's used? Reuse a built-in component. Okay. So this is like in the same way, this is kind of like DocuSource or something like that. So if you want to swap out or override or tweak pieces, here, overrides a reference. This is what I want. We have, okay. And this is in the override section. Okay, so that's how we know. Anything in here is an override. And we then also need to, I'm guessing we need to note these components. So I don't think having that folder, it doesn't look like that folder. I don't think this folder has to be called overrides, but that's how we've structured it, which makes sense to me. Okay, so TOC, table of contents. Component that renders the current page's table of contents on wider viewports. I mean, not like, what if we just don't use those? I'm not going to rule it out. I mean, honestly. And this is a nice thing about doing a PR, but doing a PR on top of something. So I'm going to go with an executive decision, open up a PR, and like that's a good place to potentially to have a conversation. This hasn't been, I mean, there is time invested. Like I've put a little time into it now, but it's not like I've done a week's worth of work that can potentially be thrown away. It sometimes it's useful to put together a whole blog post or a whole issue to describe what's happening and try to ideate through a solution. But sometimes it's nice to have a little example or have a concrete thing to look at, potentially little tweaks, but at a level that's like not deeply involved. If you can do a little tweak, a little bit of, comment a couple lines of code, change a couple lines of code, open up a PR, and use that as a conversation point. That sometimes, especially for folks that are more like visual learning oriented, being able to like see the changes and see what it looks like rather than trying to discuss and imagine it through text is helpful potentially to move a conversation forward. So I think the play here is that we remove page frame and table of contents. It had a purpose. Honestly, I don't see a huge difference. The big thing is that we're losing this switcher on top. But if we can actually maintain this and we don't have to have, like, if we can delete a whole ton of lines of code, I think it's honestly going to be, I think that's going to be our best bet. If we had folks where like this was their job and they were constantly maintaining this, I might have a slightly different take, but I think this is probably the way to go. So I guess that being said, if we have a pages, I guess we still do need to technically tweak the sidebar. The sidebar is going to be different depending on the page. So, we have some other pieces. I'm assuming these get used within our content. So like stubs, since version, like feedback. I mean, it is entirely possible that what I deleted in those like page frame, let's see, we're using, those are imports from our stuff, or excuse me, those are imports from Astro and Lorenzo's package. And this is coming in from table of contents list. So that could then potentially go away. And this is importing from theirs. Yeah, like all of this. I don't. If we didn't need to like move things around a little bit and just use more of a file file list structure or something to do the sidebar, I think that's going to be a lot easier to maintain. If you want it in this other section, move the file rather than trying to do it all programmatically, because I think that's part of what's causing us issues here. I mean, functionally, though, like the other issue is that, okay, some of these list stuff we might need to deal with, but as long as this isn't going to affect our translations or anything in any way, or how we're displaying the code, if the only thing that we're losing ends up being, you know, this switcher up here, I think I'm honestly okay with that trade-off. So we'll need to figure out how to deal with the sidebar. That's probably the biggest thing. And we are, I guess we're nearing, like, look at Vitor's PR. We're kind of like, cut bits to get a render of our docs site. Like we're kind of at that. Probably could have checked off the box of looked at the PR before, but like this was a cascading list of issues that we were sort of dealing with here. So we'll have to do more with the sidebar navigation. And that's in part because, okay. A quick aside. We have, all right. Let's look at their code real quick here. I have a feeling that it's not. I mean, there's probably, like, not to belittle it or anything. There's definitely going to be some code in here, but like, it's not going to be a huge amount. So we could potentially see routes. Oh, routes. What? Oh, that renders weird. Okay. So they got some helper functions, components. Okay. Is there a config? All right. Oh no, that's ESLint. Nah, that's not what we want. We want the I don't know Starlight well enough offhand to know if we have some sort of like config file or something that we can look at. There's a starlight.d.ts. It exports a bunch of the pieces directly, and there's the index.ts, I guess. So this is the plugin. It hooks into, like, this is mostly Astro stuff, I think. And then it does inject routes. Okay, so there's a routes author. If we would look at our site here, if we go to blog, we can go to, like, here, we'll click on, oh, it's not linked. Okay, their blog / authors / Robin goes to this page. So that's what they're doing with this, like, inject route. So is there a tags authors, and it's prefix. So we know prefix is the thing that's indicating that it's like on the /blog page. But okay, so it does like an override for that specific. Okay. So like this might be the little bit that we want to do. But I suspect there's a Starlight way to do that. use subfolders to organize your files and to create multiple path segments. I think this is honestly going to be the way to go. If we can do that a little bit more, the like generated docs is probably going to be the biggest issue, which we might still need to have code dealing with that, but like we'll deal with that when we can deal with that. Provide a custom site navigation sidebar for this page. Okay, so it's going to use the global one if we don't define this. But I think we can do it by grouping or only using part of the like content tree. So we have, if we look at our folder, we have docs, and then we have a whole bunch of like top level stuff. So and then we have a reference folder. So if we move this stuff around a little bit to where we have a guides, a references, do we even have a release and a release? Okay, so release isn't really used. But if we tweak this to instead have a like those separate sections or those separate collections, I think we can then split them onto multiple pages and then do it like mostly through file menu, like file path type navigation. So the nav bar ends up being built like based off of the fact that the file is in this folder. I think that's going to be the way to go. At least we got a thing rendering. We're not having a whole ton of issues we can come back to and deal with. I think I'm okay with this. If we just deal with the sidebar, I think that's going to unlock a lot of what Vitor is running into. It's such a trip to try to maintain all of this. So I think that's going to be the way to go. I'll next week. I guess we'll see where this lands. We might pick up a little bit more if we still have stuff to do. I'm going to see if I can move a few files around and like get this rolling a little bit more. And then I'll talk to Vitor and open up a PR and see if there's still going to be stuff to do, but we've potentially unblocked enough that we can really get a good push forward on finishing this off for Vitor. So I guess that being said, we might next week either we're going to dive into this a little bit more again, but we might end up picking up a couple different smaller topics within the Tauri space and potentially in concert with writing docs or something, play around with some of the like do an example or use the example that we have in the docs, and then use that process to fill out the docs a little bit more. So look for that. If you're interested in hopping in there, I would love to see you. Thanks for watching. I will see you all next week. Have a great rest of your week, everybody. See you next Tuesday. Bye.